Welcome back to Transformers Cyberverse Season 3. We are back here with the Battle for Cybertron Part 3. We ended the last episode with Prowl taking a bad hit intended for Optimus, and Shockwave going down a mysterious elevator where we heard some foreboding growls. As we begin this episode, we continue the battle between the Autobot and Decepticon forces. Optimus Prime tosses Megatron.
You will not stop me, Megatron. You're absolutely right, Prime. I won't!
I have a pretty good guess what Megatron is implying here based on what we saw in the trailer. Optimus enters the threshold of the Allspark, but somehow doesn't notice that he's surrounded by scraplets. I gotta wonder, where did these scraplets come from? Megatron couldn't have created them with just Vector Sigma alone, could he? Were they the ones that Starscream created? Did the Decepticons collect them from Earth and bring them to Cybertron? That seems like a bad idea. What if some of them got loose and Cybertron became infested with scraplets? Meanwhile, Windblade and Teletran X are looking for a way down to the well, and Teletran X says that he can detect two Autobot energy signatures below them. Windblade uses her city-speaking ability to make contact with Chromia, who tells her about the tunnels she and Perceptor used in Episode 1, which Windblade then relays to Hot Rod, who christens his team as Team Hot Rod. I gotta admit, that got a chuckle out of me. Also, I gotta say, as cute as his Allspark backpack was on him in robot mode, it's 100 times cuter in kitty cat mode. I mean, when have you ever seen a cat wear a backpack? It's adorable. So, Team Hot Rod make their way down into the tunnel, but Drift spies them and follows after them. Then, just as I suspected from the trailer, Megatron calls in his giant Shockwave drones, which, now that they're this size, kind of remind me of the Scarabs in Halo. Team Hot Rod slides down a tunnel. Funny thing here, I mean, besides the fact that Hot Rod and Cheetor stick the landing, but Bumblebee does not, is the order in which they do it. When they jump down, it's Hot Rod first, then Bumblebee, and finally Cheetor. But when they land, it's Hot Rod, Cheetor, and then Bumblebee. It's like continuity error there, probably for the sake of the joke. I guess it wouldn't have made much sense if it was Cheetor who didn't stick the landing, because he's a cat, and cats always land on their feet. As they're walking through the underbelly of Cybertron, Drift catches up to them and tries to attack Cheetor, but Hot Rod stops him. Turns out Drift has been a double agent this entire time. So I guess that's what was up with that scene a couple episodes ago. And I guess that's why Drift's eyes were red for that scene, to foreshadow him turning evil. Which doesn't really make sense because his eyes are blue here. That is, before his Autobot symbols changed to Decepticon ones, at which time his eyes changed color too. And in the episode Party Down, his eyes were blue there too. You know, when he wasn't under the control of the hacked Energon badges. So I guess he can just change his faction symbols and eye color at will? Can all Transformers do that? Or is it just a part of him being a double agent? So Hot Rod holds off Drift while Bumblebee and Cheetor move deeper into Cybertron. The two fight for a bit, but...
Oh
no! This is just like how Slipstream died.
If I'm going down, you're going down.
And so, Hot Rod and Drift sink into the toxic Energon waste. Bumblebee tries to contact Hot Rod, but there is no response. Bumblebee is very depressed. I mean, not only did he just lose Hot Rod, but you gotta remember, Bumblebee was the one that brought Drift into the Autobot ranks, as we saw way back in the episode McAdams. He's gotta feel both partially responsible for Drift's betrayal, and at the same time, he's also lost Drift too in a way, since he's not the friend he thought he was, but was in fact the enemy. And in his gloomy state, Bumblebee gets snatched by someone or something. Back outside, Windblade requests Wheeljack's help as we see him using what at first I thought was some kind of crossbow, but then it turns out it's actually a car boot launcher. That's a pretty funny invention. Windblade asks Wheeljack how they can destroy Vector Sigma. Wait, what? You can't destroy Vector Sigma. It's a precious Cybertronian artifact. It'd be like destroying one of the ancient wonders of the world. Also, don't they need Vector Sigma to, like, continue their species? Don't they need it to program new Transformers and give them personalities? How can they think of destroying it? Well, before we get an answer from Jackie, Bludgeon attacks Windblade, but Teletran gets in the way. What is that? Potentially 3 Autobots we may have lost in this season already? The two arch-enemies fight for a bit. Bludgeon knocks the sword out of Windblade's hand and goes for a jump attack. And that's the end of this episode. Again, another very exciting episode of Cyberverse. Let's take a quick look back through it to see if there's anything I forgot to talk about. Optimus walking into the threshold and not immediately noticing all the scraplets around him? Does he need his optics checked? Also, when we see him outside later, how did the scraplets not follow him? And wasn't Megatron blocking the door? Seems like we missed something. Also, when Megatron says to Prime,
I arrived here long before you.
This totally reminded me of Megatron in Beast Machines, how he arrived on Cybertron before the Maximals. It's especially helped by the fact that both Megatrons have a large army of drones. Or, well, Beast Machines Megatron has a large army of drones. Cyberverse Megatron actually has a small army of large drones. Small difference. Or is it a big one? When Hot Rod and Drift sink into the toxic Energon waste, I have a feeling that this isn't the last we've seen of them. Or at least Hot Rod. Simply going off some of the later episode descriptions for this season. Plus, remember how we see a black Hot Rod in the show's intro for this season. My guess is that Hot Rod will climb out of the goop with a new black color scheme. And who knows, maybe Drift will too, and change his name back to Deadlock. Just before Bumblebee gets grabbed, we can see something run by the screen. If we freeze frame it at the right moment, we can see that it is in fact Repugnus, who is another new bot we learned about through the toys. So I'm guessing Bumblebee's going to be okay. And finally, I'm kind of glad to see Bludgeon is back. I guess he wasn't left floating up into space forever after all. And that means that Windblade can finally get her revenge for her frenemy Slipstream. So that's it for the Battle for Cybertron Part 3. Another great episode, and once again, I can't wait to finish this review and get back to watching the next episode. As always, let me know what you thought of this episode down in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, ring the bell, and all that other fun stuff. And I'll see you back here soon for the finale to this 4-parter, The Battle for Cybertron Part 4.